It was supposed to be the ultimate victory, the moment we had all been waiting for. Anna Johnston, often labeled the rebel child of the family, finally escaped the intense scrutiny of her parents' home and stepped out into the world on her own. We watched her sign the papers, we watched her pack the boxes, and we watched her drive away toward a new life of freedom. It felt like the happy ending to a years-long saga of tension and rules. But as the dust settles and the cameras stop rolling, a darker question begins to emerge. Is this independence truly sustainable, or was it all just a temporary illusion? New observations and deep dives into the reality of the current economy suggest that Anna's grand experiment might be facing hurdles that no one saw coming. Today, we are looking past the edited footage to ask the hard question. Is Anna Johnston being slowly pulled back into the orbit she fought so hard to leave? Before we dive deep into the evidence and the theories that are shaking up the fandom, make sure you hit that like button if you want to see Anna succeed, and subscribe to the channel with notifications on. We are investigating every angle of the 7 Little Johnstons world, and you do not want to miss what we uncover next. To understand the gravity of the situation, we first have to look at just how high the stakes were. For seasons, the narrative arc of Anna Johnston was defined by friction, whether it was issues with school, disagreements about behavior, or just the general clash of personalities with Trent and Amber. Anna was always portrayed as the one who needed extra guidance. So when she purchased her own home, it wasn't just a real estate transaction. It was a statement. It was proof that she could stand on her own 2 feet, run her own business, and manage her life without the constant oversight that defined her teenage years. We saw her decorating her space with a style that was uniquely hers. We saw her managing her online jewelry business, Fizz for Passion, showing the world that she had an entrepreneurial spirit. For a long time, the updates were nothing but positive. She was thriving. She was the picture of the modern, independent young woman. Fans celebrated this transformation because it felt like a vindication. It proved that the strict parenting style wasn't the only way to achieve success, and that Anna had found her own path. It was the perfect underdog story. But in the world of reality TV, and in the brutal reality of the current housing market, underdog stories are often more fragile than they appear. This brings us to the uncomfortable reality that many viewers are starting to whisper about. While the show presents a polished version of success, the math of living alone in today's economy is punishing. We have to look at the practical side of this independence. Anna is a homeowner at a very young age. This is a massive achievement, but it comes with a massive burden. Mortgage rates, property taxes, utilities, and maintenance costs are skyrocketing across the country. While Anna earns money from the show and her business, the financial pressure on a single-income household is immense. Fans have started analyzing the longevity of her business model. While Fizz for Passion has had waves of great success, the crafting and jewelry market on platforms like Etsy and Instagram is incredibly volatile. Trends change overnight. Algorithms shift. What sells out in minutes one month might sit on the shelves the next. Some observant followers have noted periods of quiet on her business pages, leading to speculation about the consistency of that income stream. If the business hits a slow patch, the financial weight of that house doesn't go away. It gets heavier. And this is where the dynamic with Trent and Amber becomes critical. We know from years of watching the show that Trent and Amber are parents who like to be involved. They have a very specific way of running their family, and they have struggled in the past with letting go of control. This has led to a prevailing theory in the community that Anna's independence might still have strings attached. The question isn't necessarily about whether Anna is failing, but whether the safety net provided by her parents comes with conditions. In the world of the Johnstons, financial help often seems to overlap with parental input. If Anna were to face a financial pinch, a broken appliance, a slow sales month, a rise in insurance premiums, where would she turn? If she turns to her parents, does that reopen the door to their control? This is the fear that hangs over her storyline. The independence she fought for is real, but it is precarious. We have to consider the psychological toll as well. Living alone after coming from a bustling, chaotic house full of siblings is a massive adjustment. The silence of an empty house can be liberating, but it can also be isolating. Recently, social media posts have shown Anna spending time back at the family home. For many, this is just a normal daughter visiting her parents. But for those who analyze the power dynamics of this specific family, it raises red flags. Is she visiting because she wants to or because she needs to? Is the pull of the family unit dragging her back in? There is a subtle shift in the tone of recent interactions. We have seen moments where the boundaries seem to blur again. The concern is that if Anna spends too much time back in the environment she left, the old roles will reassert themselves. The rebel-child dynamic is comfortable for the show's narrative, and it is a role her parents know how to manage. A fully independent, self-sufficient Anna is a variable they cannot control. A struggling Anna, or an Anna who needs to come home for dinner and laundry, is within their sphere of influence. Let's look deeper into the control theory. Throughout the series, we have watched Trent and Amber use tough love as a primary parenting tool. They often frame their decisions as teaching moments. If Anna were to face difficulties with her home or her business, would they step in to save her immediately, or would they use it as a lesson? Some theorists believe that the parents might actually be waiting for a stumble, not out of malice, but out of a desire to prove that their guidance is still necessary. It is a complex psychological web. If Anna feels that her independence is conditional on her being perfect, the stress is unimaginable. One mistake, one missed payment, one bad decision, and the narrative shifts from Anna the homeowner back to Anna the rebel who didn't listen. This brings us to the concept of the soft return. This isn't necessarily packing up boxes and moving back into her old bedroom tomorrow. It is a slower process. It starts with spending weekends at home. Then it becomes staying over to help with something. Then it involves financial advice. Slowly, the autonomy she built begins to erode. The house she bought becomes less of a fortress of solitude and more of a satellite location of the main Johnston estate. We also have to talk about the reality of the show itself. 7. Little Johnstons thrive on family interaction. A cast member who is completely separated, living a drama-free life away from the main hub, is harder to film and harder to integrate into storylines. Production incentives often align with keeping the family close. Is there pressure, perhaps not from the parents but from the structure of the show, for Anna to remain deeply entangled in the family drama? Her moving back, or at least being constantly present at the big house, drives the plot forward. It creates conflict. It creates conversations. When we look at the trajectory of her siblings, we see a pattern of the parents wanting to keep the flock together. The pressure to conform to the family timeline is immense. Anna broke that timeline. She shattered expectations. But maintaining that break requires constant energy. It requires a distinct separation of finances, emotion, and time. If any one of those barriers weakens, the slide back to the status quo begins. The scary part for fans who root for Anna is that we might not see the move back home happening all at once. It won't be a sudden announcement. It will be framed as a temporary solution. It will be renting out the house for extra income or moving back for a few months to save money. It will be presented as a logical, mature financial decision. And it might be. But underneath that logic, it would represent the loss of the hard-won territory of her adulthood. So, while we don't have a moving truck in the driveway today, the signs of a potential return are scattered throughout the current landscape. The economic pressure, the family history of control, the psychological difficulty of living alone, and the narrative needs of reality television all create a perfect storm that pushes against Anna's independence. She is swimming upstream. Every day she stays in her own home, pays her own bills, and sets her own boundaries is a battle won. But the war for her autonomy is far from over. As we continue to watch this season unfold, we need to pay close attention to the money and the time. Who is paying for what? How often is she at the big house? And most importantly, does she look happy? Because true independence isn't just about a deed to a house. It's about the freedom to be yourself without fear of judgment or the threat of having the rug pulled out from under you. If that fear still exists, then she hasn't truly moved out at all. To understand why the walls might be closing in on Anna, we have to strip away the emotional layer of the show and look at the cold, hard mechanics of the situation. We need to talk about the co-signer theory. This is one of the most persistent rumors circulating in the deep discussion threads, and if it is true, it changes everything. In the current real estate market, it is incredibly difficult for a young person with a fluctuating income, based largely on reality TV contracts and freelance sales, to secure a mortgage on their own. Banks look for stability. They look for long-term employment history. While Anna has done an amazing job building her credit and saving, The sheer price tag of a home in today's market often requires a guarantor. If Trent or Amber co-signed on Anna's house, or if they provided the substantial down payment required to get the keys, they legally and financially own a piece of that independence. It means that technically, Anna is not the sole decision-maker. It means that every time Trent asks about the budget, he isn't just being a nosy father. He is an investor protecting his asset. This dynamic creates a shadow leash. Anna can walk as far as the leash allows, but the moment there is a financial wobble, a missed payment, or a dip in the bank account, the co-signer has the leverage to reel her back in. It transforms the house from a symbol of freedom into a massive leverage point for parental control. This leads us to the conditional bailout hypothesis. We have seen Trent obsess over numbers. We have seen him sit the kids down for lectures on credit scores and car payments. He is a man who calculates risk. If the independent living experiment, as some critics call it, starts to show a negative return on investment, the parents will not hesitate to pull the plug. The theory is that there is a standing ultimatum that the cameras aren't showing us. The ultimatum is simple: maintain a specific bank balance, or the house goes on the market, and you move back into the loft. This creates a pressure cooker environment where Anna isn't just living. She is performing solvency to keep her freedom. Let's look at the precedent set by her siblings. We cannot analyze Anna's situation in a vacuum. We have to look at the pattern established with Jonah. When Jonah faced difficulties, issues with school, issues with his car, general lack of direction, what was the solution? It wasn't to help him find an apartment and figure it out on his own. It was to bring him back home, put him under strict surveillance, check his phone, and manage his daily routine. The Johnston way of solving a problem is centralization. It is bringing the stray sheep back into the fold. If Anna is struggling, even a little bit, the path of least resistance is the Jonah path. The infrastructure for her return is already there. The parents have proven they prefer to have their children under their roof where they can monitor their choices. Fans have pointed out that Anna is held to a different standard than the others, often facing harsher criticism for smaller mistakes. If she is indeed holding on by a thread financially, she might be terrified to admit it, knowing that the solution offered will be a one-way ticket back to her childhood bedroom. We also have to scrutinize the business, Fizz for passion. We all want it to succeed. The products are great, and her hustle is undeniable. But we have to be realistic about the scale. Can a handmade jewelry business support a mortgage, property tax, home insurance, health insurance, car payments, and utilities in this economy? Unless she is moving massive volume every single week, the math gets scary very quickly. We have noticed that when the show is airing, sales likely spike due to visibility. But what happens in the off-season? What happens when the show is on hiatus for months? The income from the show is substantial, but it is not infinite, and it is not guaranteed forever. If the network decides to cancel the show tomorrow, the primary income stream for the entire mortgage vanishes. Trent and Amber know this. They have day jobs and diversified skills. They might be looking at Anna's situation and telling her, "You cannot afford this life without the show." This brings up the dark possibility that the house was a storyline purchase. Reality TV producers love milestones: proms, graduations, weddings, and buying houses. These are the pillars of unscripted storytelling. There is a strong chance that the push for Anna to buy a house was accelerated to provide content for the season. Anna Moves Out was a major plot point that carried multiple episodes. But now that the plot point has aired, the producers have got what they wanted. They have the footage. Anna, however, is left with the 30-year mortgage. If the push to move out was premature, driven by production schedules rather than financial readiness, then the crash is inevitable. And who is waiting to catch her? Trent and Amber. But their safety net always comes with strings. It suggests that her freedom was granted by the show and the parents for entertainment value, and now that the season is over, the reality of the bills is setting in. We must also interpret the soft launch of her return through her social media behavior. When someone is fully secure in their new life, they build new routines. They host their own holidays. They create new traditions. But we are seeing Anna frequently integrated back into the family unit for minor events. While this is lovely on a personal level, from an independent standpoint, it signals a lack of separation. There are rumors, and again, these are whispers from the fan base, that Anna has been spending nights at the family home not just for visits, but because she is renting out rooms in her own house or trying to save on utilities. If she is practically living at her parents' house to save money while technically owning another home, she has already moved back in spirit, if not on paper. It's a shadow return. She keeps the house to save face and maintain the appearance of success for the gram, but the day-to-day reality is that she is reliant on the family resources. This creates a duality that must be exhausting to maintain. On Instagram, she is the boss babe homeowner. In reality, she might be eating dinner at Amber's table 5 nights a week because the grocery budget is tight. This duality is unsustainable. Eventually, the mask slips. Eventually, the house becomes too much of a burden to keep as a prop for independence. And let's not forget the emotional toll of the double standard. Viewers have long argued that Trent and Amber are waiting for Anna to fail so they can say, "We told you so." It is a heartbreaking theory, but the footage often supports it. There is a distinct lack of enthusiasm from the parents regarding Anna's autonomy compared to, say, Elizabeth's. If Anna feels this lack of support, if she feels that her parents expect her to collapse, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The anxiety of trying to prove them wrong can lead to burnout, and burnout leads to retreating to a safe place. So, is Anna Johnston being forced to move back home? The evidence suggests that she is certainly being squeezed. Squeezed by the economy, squeezed by the potential conditions of a co-signed loan, and squeezed by the psychological weight of the family dynamic. The force might not be physical. It might not be Trent changing the locks on her new house. The force is the crushing weight of reality that was perhaps ignored for the sake of a TV storyline. If she does move back, the show will likely spin it. They will call it a smart financial reset. They will say she is renting her property for passive income. They will control the narrative to protect the family brand. But the astute viewers, the ones who have been paying attention to the cracks in the foundation, will know the truth. They will know that the rebellion was quelled, not by lack of spirit, but by the impossible economics of escaping the Johnston empire. As we watch the next few months unfold, look for the signs, look for the selling my clothes posts, look for the increase in sponsored content, which often signals a need for quick cash, and look at the background of her videos. If the background starts looking more and more like Trent and Amber's living room and less like her own, we will have our answer. The independence experiment may be coming to a quiet, controlled end. But ultimately, where does this leave us? If we zoom out and look at the entire timeline of Anna's journey, a heartbreaking picture begins to form. We wanted to believe in the fairy tale. We wanted to believe that the rebellious teenager who clashed with her parents had finally won the war, planted her flag, and built a kingdom of her own. But reality is rarely a fairy tale. The tragic prediction that many of us are afraid to vocalize is that Anna's freedom was never truly real in the first place. It is looking more and more like a temporary storyline, a season of independence, granted to her by the producers for ratings, and by her parents for the illusion of growth. It was a permitted detour, a long leash that allowed her to run around the yard, but never actually leave the property. Now that the season is over, now that the homeowner Anna plot has been squeezed for every ounce of drama it can yield, the narrative utility of her independence is gone. The story is over, and she is being reeled back in. The rebel is being brought back to the fold, proving a hard truth about this show. In the Johnston family, it feels like no one ever truly escapes. If she moves back, it erases the progress. It resets the character development. It frames her success not as a new baseline, but as a fluke. A lucky break that couldn't be sustained. It reinforces the idea that without Trent and Amber's direct supervision, the children cannot function. And that is the most damaging narrative of all. Her journey for independence wasn't a victory. It was just a scenic route back to where she started. The furniture might be different, and she might have a few more years of wisdom under her belt, but if she ends up back under that roof, subject to those rules, facing that same scrutiny, then the destination hasn't changed. The road simply led her in a circle. The scary reality is that the for sale sign on her independence might already be printed. The boxes might already be mentally packed. And the room she fought so hard to leave is likely sitting there, empty, waiting for its occupant to return, defeated by a world that was too expensive and a family dynamic that was too strong to break. We are watching the slow-motion end of an era. The question isn't if Anna moves back, but how the show will spin it to make it look like a win. But we will know the truth. We will know that for a brief, shining moment, she was free. And we will be watching to see if she has the strength to fight for that freedom one more time, or if the Johnston gravity is finally too strong to resist. What do you think? Is Anna really in financial trouble? Or is this just a lull in her business? Are Trent and Amber secretly pulling the strings to get her back home? Let me know your theories in the comments below. I read every single one. If you want to stay updated on this developing story and find out the truth before it hits the airwaves, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We will be tracking Anna's every move until we get the answer. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.